Pagpasensyahan niyo na po ako sa aking munting kaguluhan sa aking screen sapagkat meron po akong isang napakakulit na alagang pusa sa aking tabi. Okay. Anyways, welcome po sa magandang hapon po sa ating lahat at palugod na pagbati mula sa Future Earth Philippines. Muli niyo kaming samahan sa isa't kalahating oras ng palitan ng kaalaman na tiyak na kapupulutan ng aral at karunungan. So sa episode pong ito ng ating Filipino Sustainable Goal Hours, pag-uusapan natin ang mga kwento ng Bahay Ivatan at ang kanilang potensyal bilang pinagkukunang yaman ng kultural, edukasyonal, ekonomiko sa lalawigan ng Batanes sa Pilipinas. Sa ngayong hapon po, kung pag-uusapan po natin ang paghabi ng kasaysayan sa bawat bato at kahoy, walang tatalo sa dedikasyon ng ating panauhin sa hapon na ito. Hindi lamang siya isang arkitekto, siya ay tagapangalaga ng kaluluwa o ng soul ng bayan ng Batanes. Bilang mukha sa likod ng Estudyo Kamanyidongan, siya ay isang conservation architect at architectural historian na may pusong kasingtibay ng mga bahay na bato sa Basco. Dala ang kanyang masteral degree in historic preservation mula sa Clemson University sa Estados Unidos, kung saan nag-uwi siya ng prestiyosong parangal na Charles E. Peterson Prize. Bumalik siya sa kanyang sinilangang bayan upang siguruhing hindi malilimutan ng panahon ang sining ng Ivatan. Mula sa pagdodokumento ng mga ancestral houses at itbayat hanggang sa pagiging plenary speaker tungkol sa Ivatan vernacular architecture, siya ang go-to person pagdating sa heritage conservation. At bilang aktibong miyembro ng ICOMOS, Philippines at UAP, patuloy niyang pinatunayan na ang tradisyon at modernisasyon ay pwedeng magsama sa isang magandang disenyo. So sa hapon pong ito, palakpakan po natin and let's all welcome Architect Sai Valiente. Architect, welcome po sa Future Earth Philippines.
Good afternoon po at good afternoon sa ating lahat. And maraming salamat sa Future Earth Philippines for sharing giving us opportunity to share this our experience in documenting the Ivatan House. So this is my topic and okay, asa na yon?
Yes po, pwede na po tayong mag-share ng ating PowerPoint presentation.
Saglit ha.
Sige lang po.
Ayun. I don't know if I'm the ideal resource person in this Future Earth Philippines. Actually, nung tinawagan po ko ngayon ko lang po nalaman na may ganito po palang programa. So, pagpasensya na kung hindi mag-fit yung aking topic. But I was really excited ito kasi matagal na kasi namin itong research, so I'm really excited to share our research. So my topic, Ivatan House Stories and the Potential as Cultural Educational Economic Resources in the Province of Batanes in the Philippines. So when we heard of Ivatan houses, ang aking slide ay conversational lang naman. So when we heard of Ivatan houses, the immediate thought forming in our minds is the picture perfect stone houses of Batanes. Katulad po nito, napakagandang Ivatan house from Yugan. And then we tend to associate them with vernacular materials and of course sustainability. And then we also tend to associate them with typhoon proofing and of course resilience. And the next thought is, madalas na tinatanong sa amin ito are they being documented? And the answer is yes, they're being documented. Both efforts from private sectors and the government, pero siyempre hindi ho ganun kabilis ang pagdodocument at medyo marami-rami pa naman yung natitira and mabagal yung pagdodocument. On our end, ito yung mga aming mga na-document na hindi pa kompleto but most of these are ongoing. And then, yung next na madalas na tanong is, are they being conserved again? Yes, may conservation effort both from government and private sector. And in our end, ito naman yung project namin na restoration sa Basco, the Guillermo Cantero Ancestral House. Bale, inalis namin yung semento na plaster and then pinalitan namin ng lime para hindi mo masira yung lime sa ilalim ng wall. Kasi pag natatrap siya, yung semento kasi is rigid, itong lime is porous. So pag cement base yung mortar na gagamitin na pang plaster, matatrap po yung yung tubig, and pag may dalang asin or acid yung tubig na yon, lulusawin po niya yung lime at diyan magka-crumble eventually magka-crumble yung wall, lalo na pagka may mga disasters such as earthquake. So ito siya nung malapit na kami matapos. And then meron din mga iba't ibang experiment for example how to reinforce or reinforce the Ivatan houses. Pero ito experiment lang na we use the same materials and then we try to use to reinforce it with fiberglass, para kasi ang fiberglass hindi siya corrosive. So, hindi kasi pwedeng pag-practicean yung existing at delikado po yan pagka may negative side effect yun sa sa structure, di nagsayang na naman tayo ng isang Ivatan. So, ginawa namin is nag-reconstruct kami ng Ivatan house. Naghanap po kami ng client na willing to reconstruct their nasirang non-existent na Ivatan house. Tapos ginamitan po namin ng fiberglass. Ito ang kanyang itsura. Sana pag natapos. But then my discussion will not be heading to that. So ang discussion ko ay medyo iba kasi ito, yung discussion na ito is marami na ring nag-discuss nito. Pag ginugol niyo sa YouTube, ang daming mga discussion and then studies, and so I'm not heading to that part of conservation, Ivatan house conservation. Instead, I will be focusing on the people associated with these historic houses. And after all, heritage conservation is not only about after all, the heritage conservation is not only about the physical objects, but it is also about often forgotten legacies of the people who owns it. And in other words, we aim to humanize the Ivatan houses by looking into the human facet of the story. So, moving on to my main discussion, we have a community project, a continuing project in Batanes called the Survey of Ivatan Houses that started in 2012. And the component of this project is first architectural or a detailed measured drawings of each houses. And how we do this, we go to site and measure like this. We gather data, and this is in cooperation with our volunteers, apprentices, and the local government of Batanes. So dito kami nagpupunta kami sa site, and then we measure, and then I want to fit them all kasi ang dami nila na nag-volunteer sa amin, pero in dalawang slide lang aking ginawa rito kung paano kami nangunguha ng mga data on site. And then after gathering data on site, ginagawa namin yung um, parang field notes. Kino-convert namin ito into field notes na understandable to someone na who will convert this into CAD file. Sometimes wala dito sa Batanes yung mga nagka-CAD file, so dapat understandable yung very comprehensive dapat yung aming field notes. So ang product is katulad nito nung nasa halimbawa ito, kami yung kumuha nito kami nag-prepare ng field notes, and then someone, another architect, architect Monique Graterta encoded this finished product. And then it also involves photo documentation. So halos lahat ng importanteng kailangang kuhanan, kinukuhanan po namin ito. And then usually nakakakuha kami ng photos na 400 to 500 photos in one Ivatan house. And then the most challenging part is the property research component of this survey of Ivatan houses. It involves research. And this includes not only the detailed construction and building technologies, but it also involves the story of the people who owns or who live in these Ivatan houses. And we go beyond from the information we get from the family and the community by corroborating this with archival research. So madalas parang medyo time consuming yung paggawa ng property research. Yung architectural tsaka yung photographic documentation, exciting yun kasi it involves going outside and syempre nag-enjoy kami na pero yung pag consolidate na ng data at paggawa na and then pag-contextualize ng mga data na nakuha and then gawanin na ito ng kwento, yan ang medyo madugo and challenging on our part. So take for example, and dito ako magfo-focus sa hindi ako magfo-focus dun sa photo documentation and then sa architectural, kundi magfo-focus po ako sa part na ito ng magfo-focus ako dito sa property research na part ng aming project. And so take for example ito, yung una naming nagawa ng property research, and ikukwento ko lang kung how we inadvertently help the family had a closure for a event or a very sad event that struck the family paying for a century already. So this is the Luisa Castillo Gasa Ancestral House in Itbayat Island, and it is believed that this was already occupied in 1927, and this was built by Luisa Castillo Gasa. And she joined the Panabatan Community Work Group in order to build this house. And this community work group, the Panabatan, is usually an all-male membership, but you may wonder why she joined this, why she was accepted as a member of this Panabatan work group. Because Luisa's husband, Lupe Gasa, migrated to Hawaii and become a Sakada. And Sakada are those workers those are migrant workers from the Philippines and other countries who work in the plantation in Hawaii. And at the turn of the 20th century, the Hawaii Sugarcane Planters Association went to Luzon in the Philippines, and then recruited in Luzon, and they reached Itbayat Island, and it is where Lupe Gasa applied for a job. And during the first few years, or during the first year na umalis si Lupe Gasa, he sent them silverwares, and what remains of that silverware was this spoon here, the presentation. And on the right side is his grandson, and I collaborated with him in this research. But after a few maybe after he sent this silverware, Lupe went offline. He stopped communicating with them. And this is his son, Victor Gasa. And when he left Itbayat, when Lupe left the Philippines, he was only, I think, 6 years old. So he had a very vague memory of his father. And this is Lupe's, at the right side is Socorro Gasa, Victor's wife, and Lupe's daughter-in-law. Then, so after World War II, the Lupe's colleagues or fellow Sakada who went to Hawaii returned to Itbayat Island, and one of them was very close to Victor Gasa, and I think Victor had grown or had become fond of him because of his because he was the last person who saw his father, and according to this Sakada, he saw his father for the last time when he was admitted in a hospital. But the sad thing is, Victor and Luisa assume that Lupe left them for another family, or he left Luisa for another woman. And Victor died in the 1960s, believing that his father did that. And then eventually Luisa passed away in the 1980s, also believing that Lupe left her for another woman. And this belief passed to generation until the current generation. We started writing or researching or doing the property research here in 2012, but we stopped in 2015 because we cannot go beyond what we can get from the family. And what I've read from the writings of or work of Dr. Belinda Aquino. I wanted to know more. I mean, I wanted to see some primary documents to corroborate the story. But it was impossible to access this back in 2015. But fast forward in 2025, with the advent of digitization of primary documents from different parts of from different archives and libraries in different parts of the world, we finally access some documents pertaining to Lupe Gasa. And so we learned that he left in Itbayat Island in 1916. And then the next year, in 1917, December of 1917, he was admitted to a hospital. And in the following year, 1918, April of 1918, he passed away. And so I had a doubt. I doubt the information I get from the family about Lupe, but that I cannot prove it except for conjectures that I based from what I read from the reports of Dr. Belinda Aquino on Sakada. And so here, our property research has become a source of healing because we finally informed the family what happened to their ancestor, and so the the idea that he left for Luisa and his family for and his children for another woman or another family is now debunked. And so in a way, inadvertently, we I think this property research has given justice to Lupe Gasa after a century of after 100 years of having this I'm not saying accusation, but having this belief that he left his family for another family. And so here the property research being a source of healing and closure for this grieving family. And then next, this is another property research that we did for Valentin Castaño Ancestral House in Ivana, and this time our research has, in a way, reclaimed a forgotten legacy of one of our most important, or probably the first civil and structural engineer from Batanes. And so this is the structure in focus. It's a ruin now, but this was the owner, the ex-mayor Valentin Castaño. He was also a migrant. He went to Iloilo and Bacolod and established and he became a very successful merchant there, and then went back to Batanes in the after World War II. And his house or the Valentin Castaño Ancestral House has now become actually a favorite tourist destination here in Batanes, thanks to the advocates of heritage conservation in Ivana, private and the local government of Ivana. They are now keeping this Ivatan House. And ang dami ng kwento na ma-extract dito. Actually, I call this we call this type of Ivatan houses as the first modern Ivatan house, because they started using reinforcement bars here, and then yung floor plan hindi na rin vernacular. So yun, I call it that transition period Ivatan architecture, or the first modern Ivatan architecture. But sa dami ng magandang kwento dito, I'm not heading to that. Instead, I'll be focusing on the designer. So when we did the interview when we interviewed the descendants of Don Valentin Castaño, they said that the designer was a civil engineer, and he was a representative of Batanes, and his name is Vicente Agan. And so kami, naniwala naman kami na siya yun yung gumawa nun. But then we were surprised that when we started corroborating this information from the family, we found out that Vicente Agan, the supposedly designer, was actually a lawyer, and he taught in the University of Santo Tomas between 1917 and 1927, and then he was also elected in Congress in 1925 to 1928, and then re-elected again in 1930s. But unfortunately, he died young. He passed away in 1943. So sabi ko, he could not be the designer because lawyer siya eh. And so, thank God meron na mga nauso ngayon yung genealogy website. And so, doon kami naghanap. Hinanap namin yung hinanap namin yung genealogy ng Agan na Agan in Batanes, and we found out that Vicente Agan has actually a younger brother who was a civil engineer, and ito siya dito nakatayo with an arrow pointed doon, and sa Metropolitan Theater ito, and this photo is the Bachelor's Club, and he is with a famous personalities of his time, including I think Jose Paterno of the Paterno business. And then may Rojas din dyan. Hindi ko memorize yung mga pangalan nila, pero very famous personalities yung mga nandito. And so, dito namin na siya yung designer, hindi yung kanyang brother, na mix up yung kanilang identity. And we even found out the year when he passed the board. And then we also found out that Anastasio Agan, the younger brother of Vicente Agan, was also a founding director of the Association of Structural Engineers here in the Philippines. And structures that we have found out that associated with him is the home economics building in Bascos Central School, and the Santo Domingo Church in Quezon City. He was a former city engineer of Quezon City, and later he worked with future national artist Jose Maria Zaragoza as in this particular project, Santo Domingo Church. And so yeah. And itong home economics building naman, recently na may nag-train dito yung NCCA o paano gumawa ng ganito, mga historic report or property research or narrative report. And then during the time, maraming nagko-contact sa akin regarding their projects under this training. And one of them was asking, she messaged me and told me and asked me about this home economics buildings, pero hindi pa namin alam na may associated siya kay Engineer Anastasio Agan. So kasi sabi yata ng trainer or baka china-challenge lang siguro sila para makuha yung significance, ma-expound yung significance ng structure. Ang is baka daw hindi siya kasing important ng Gabaldon School because it's not the Gabaldon School per se. Ang sinagot ko na lang is it's not the Gabaldon School per se, but it's an auxiliary of the Gabaldon School. Kasi hindi pa namin alam na associated siya kay Engineer Agan. And so ngayon na alam na namin associated siya, may proof na associated talaga siya kay Engineer. I think it has historic significance. And na-rebuild ito after the World War II, na reconstruction after World War II, and coincidentally during that time 1946 to 1949 ay congressman ng Batanes si Engineer Agan. And so so going full cycle, itong home economics building na ito is sabi nila is ginaya lang yung design ng Valentin Castaño Ancestral House. Ang pinagkaiban lang talaga is yung pediment tsaka yung itsura ng ng mga column supports, but yung floor plan is really similar to this uh, magkapareho talaga yung kanilang layout, floor plan layout. And so here our research has reinforces the idea na we really need to document our uh, um, uh, cultural resources katulad ng mga structures, tsaka yung mga tao na associated with it. Kasi human memory is fragile and it needs enhancement from records. Wala pa yatang 100 years nakalimutan na namin si Anastasio Agan, si Engineer Anastasio Agan. Ang dami pala niyang achievement. But by Batanes standard, or kahit naman Philippine standard, yung achievement niya is it's something. I mean, it's hindi lahat na tao hindi lahat ng civil engineer ma-reach ang kanyang na-achieve bilang ipatan. So, yon dito we are emphasizing the importance of records as an enhancement to our fragile human memory. And last of my sample is on the importance of property research is the Luisa Estrella Ancestral House, or in Ivana, or the popularly known as Bahay ni Dakay or Bahay ni Dakay. Ito kuha ko nung 2004 nung nag-apprentice pa ako sa government, and ito naman kuha ko nung 2025. Ito yung hindi ko alam kung ito ba talaga yung oldest, kasi marami ring iba't houses na ka-age niya by investigating the basing on the ages of those people who are associated with it. Pero there is no doubt that this is the most popular Ivatan house. I-google niyo yung Ivatan house, siya ang lalabas. Tsaka pag nagbatanes kayo tas hindi kayo magpapapicture dito, hindi kayo totoong nagbatanes. So, yan, lahat ng turista, probably 95 to 98% na mga turista na nagpupunta dito sa Batanes, nagpapapicture yan sa Bahay ni Dakay. Lahat yan, katulad nito, favorite nila magpapicture dito sa bintana niya. But, ang limited ng ating alam regarding the people who built this 150 years old house. Sometimes nag-stop lang kay Dakay Jose Estrella, the second owner, or we aren't sure. And then meron silang description dito, meron gumawa ng historic report, na simpleng historic report na sa survivors ng September 13, 1918 na earthquake, and then it was owned by Luisa Estrella, and then she was described as spinster aunt of Jose Dakay. Pero natakpan yung kung sino yung gumawa nito, kung hindi ko alam. And then meron ding galing sa description from the family, mga ganun. But we've been interviewing the descendants of the Estrella. Ito si Mr. Salvador Estrella, anak o tama, anak na ni Jose Dakay. So na-interview namin siya nung 2015, back in 2015, and very vague na yung naalala niya regarding the original owner, who is the sister of his grandfather, and except that yon nga single ganon, and then yung claim is pinamana sa favorite nephew. Pero bilang researcher, magdududa ka sa mga claim na gano'n na favorite nephew. Kailangan may something na mag-corroborate ng claim na gano'n. Kasi baka gawa-gawa na lang 'yon. Although hindi ko sinasabing nagsisinungaling yung yung informant, but the job of the researcher is to to look for something to corroborate those claims. And then kaso wala rin kaming nakukuha masyado from family kasi gano'n naman talaga, pag 3 generation away ka na, hindi medyo malabo na malabo na yung naaalala mo, sa not unless merong limbawa, may iniwan na letter or mga mga sulat or mga ano pa ba, mga last will and testaments, mga gano'n yun, pwede yun na maging reference. Pero pag ganyan na claims, medyo kailangan tignan pa yan ng researcher. And so yun nga, salamat na lang at nagdi-digitize na yung mga archives and libraries all around the world, and so we were able to access the the baptisms, and we were able to plot the genealogy of the owners, and we found out na wala kami masyadong nakita kay dun sa tatay ni Jose Dakay, except that he was an alguacil in 18 or the last part of the 20th century. Pero yung mga kapatid ni Jose Dakay, most of these are also they migrate to Hawaii, and may mga indication na they work as a sakada. And during our interview, ang paulit-ulit na sinasabi ng aming mga informant from their family is tinulungan, paano niya ang tanong kasi namin is paano niya na itayo itong ganito ka grande na Ivatan House, because by Batanes standard napaka-grande talaga nung ganong kalaki na Ivatan House during that period. Kung siya, single siya, paano niya naitayo yon kung sabi niya wala siyang work except a farmer or tapos wala talaga silang maalala na except yung sinasabi nila na tinulungan siya ng mga kapatid niya na nagpunta sa Hawaii. So but parang yung mga kapatid ni Doña Luisa Estrella is hindi sila yung nag-Hawaii, kundi yung kapatid ni Jose Dakay Estrella. Si Jose Dakay naman is nag-migrate ito sa Bacolod, sa Negros, and then he worked as a seafarer for an inter-island ship. Yung mga bumiyaba siguro sa Manila, Negros, ganon. And we also found out, as we dig into the genealogy, we also found out that Doña Luisa Estrella was a godmother of one of Jose Dakay's brother, Mariano Estrella, who migrated in Hawaii. Ayan kasi yung mga tinitignan namin kung favorite son siya, dapat siya yung godson niya, or yung mga yung solid connection na mga ganun tinitignan namin para ma-corroborate. Pero iba yung ninong ni Jose Dakay, hindi si Luisa Estrella. So dito, although conjecture lang to, ang duda namin is nung wala na baka wala nang nag-aalaga sa property na, kasi halos sila nag-migrate sila sa Hawaii. Baka in 1920 si Mariano, yung godson, then 1930s naman yung dalawa niyang kapatid sumunod na sa Hawaii. And then baka during that period wala nang tumitingin sa property nila sa Batanes. And so during that period to mga 1930s saka bumalik si Jose Dakay sa Ivana, and then yon siya na yung caretaker nung structure ng Ivatan House na ito. And then palagay namin is yung tumutulong na nagpunta sa Hawaii is this itong si Mariano Estrella, and baka hindi yan sa build kundi sa repair work siguro yun ano. Pero ganun din baka natulungan din siguro, tama rin naman siguro na natulungan siya magpatayo ng kanyang mga kapatid. But as we dig into the genealogy further, na wala kami masyadong nakita kay Ambrosio Estrella, yung tatay niya, kami masyadong nakita doon. Pero when we dig in further, yung grandparents naman ni Doña Luisa, si Don Vicente Estrella, tsaka si Doña Angela Palmores, mukhang hindi sila basta-bastang members of the community. Si Don Vicente kasi it appears na he was cabeza de barangay from 1816 to 1820, paulit-ulit na lumalabas ito sa bautismo. And then we also found out that Vicente Estrella's indigenous name is Bacnang, Vicente Bacnang. Bacnang, as we found out recently, Bacnang in Ilocano means wealthy man, and Bacnang or Bacnang in Batanes is a common name. Nasa literature to ang Bacnang na ito, na and I think we have the same meaning with the Ilocano, kasi marami kaming word na with same meaning eh. Tapos kami dito sa Batanes baka nakalimutan lang, kasi actually I've never heard na Bacnang or Bacnang means wealthy man. So kahit titignan ko rin sa dictionary, wala na eh. Wala sa dictionary ng Ivatan yung meaning ng Bacnang eh. So yung naming system naman natin is very descriptive yun eh, kung ano yung kung sa iyo character mo or naging unique character mo eh, pinapangalan sa iyo. So when they say Bacnang, you are wealthy, I think it's and then itong si Doña Angela Palmores was ang indigenous name niya is Diadeb. Diadeb in Ivatan it's either you are matangkad, or literally, or in other meaning is parang in high position, or is someone na you cannot equal, or so siguro magaling something, or I don't know. Pero when we deduce these indigenous names, nagkakaroon din ng meaning. And so then tapos nakita rin namin yung parents nitong Don Vicente Estrella from early mga 1800 to ang pangalan niya is Doña Isabel Chibunao dun sa pero huerfano na siya nung so dun sa bautismo na nakita namin pagpatay na doon sa Spanish colonial period, kasi yung bautismo pag namatay na yung hindi na apparently hindi na ini-indicate yung name ilalagay na lang huerfano. Tapos lalagay kung lalagay na yung pangalan ng as we all know that Doña and Don as a prefix is synonymous to being wealthy or powerful during this period. So we believe that Doña Luisa Estrella is not only a soltera, she's more than that. She's being based on the investigation that we did for her genealogy. It means that she's a respected respected member of the community. And even because she was often as godmother to prominent children of prominent people in the community. And meron ding observation yung priest doon during her time, 1840s, 1860s, 1880s. Nagtataka siya na yung sa bayan ng iba na daw, even the elite people, elite in Batanes standard, na they were joining the Beata. Beata is those are people who work voluntarily in the church. They till the land, they clean the church, they wash for the priest, and they cook for the priest for free. So and they help in teaching the children in the community. So nagtataka siya na ibang-iba daw yung robustness ng dedication ng mga taga-Ibana dahil yung mga elite people nila hindi lang yung mga common people is nagjo-join or sumusuporta sa Third Dominican Order o yung Beata. So here I think here this was in this picture right, that was me in 2015 while we were documenting, and I was with this descendant of, I took a photo, descendant of this the Estrellas, and you know, he has no idea that he has a very rich heritage. And so here I'm emphasizing in this particular research that when genealogy meets old photos, century family heirloom, and near 150-old Ibotanos, the presentation of the story is really powerful. So ito yung Luisa Estrella or Bahindakay 1937, and this is lakasan or ano nga ba ito sa Tagalog ni Jose, gamit ni Jose Estrella, and that is the genealogy with the annotation. Yan, pag pinagsama-sama mo yun, napaka-powerful ng kwento, ng presentation ng kwento. Nagkakaroon ng, hindi siya I mean, imbes na ang presentation mo is gawa siya sa bato, gawa siya sa thatch coco house, na then it lasts for 30 years, then yung bato na yan, ganito ginagawa. Yeah. When you when we integrate the genealogy, nagkakaroon ng presentation or heritage interpretation natin ng mas personal level. So alam mo naman, pag may personal level, iba yung hatak niya sa ating mga listener. So here my last two slides, these are 6 from the 6 municipalities in Batanes, Basco, Ivatan, and Ivatan House in Basco, the Angel Amboy Ancestral House. Kung nakikita nyo, siyempre, ang kadalasan sinasabi nila is yung estimated date, then yung materials, yun lang. But when we don't know the people who live there, wala na tayong makukwento. And then ito, Pascual Munada Ancestral sa Mahatao, and then the Don Valerio Agudo Ancestral House in Ivana, Bato pa din, tsaka Thatch. Then itong Hipolito Ortiz Ancestral House in Luyugan, again, bato-bato pa rin. Then sa Sabtang naman, the Vicente Ornedo Ancestral House, another bato. And then Eusebio Mirabueno Ancestral House in Itbayat, bato pa rin. But when you overlay it with the people who are there or who live there, it becomes more meaningful. So, for example, sa sa Angel Amboy Ancestral House, ito yung anak niya, si Mariano Amboy, who was a successful merchant and a former sakada. And up until now, yung descendant nila, successful merchant pa rin sila. And one of I would say one of our most successful business people here in Batanes. And then ito naman sa Pascual Minada, ito sila husband and wife goldsmiths. Itong mga pinakasikat na mga goldsmiths sa Batanes. And then of course, Don Valerio Don Valerio Agudo Ancestral House. Ang pinaka-notable na naging occupant niya is of course si Secretary Ife Hidalgo. And kung hindi po ninyo siya kilala, is a career woman from DepEd and naging in a very short stint naging secretary siya nung mag-resign ng another Ivatan na naging secretary ng DepEd si Secretary Budsaban. And then here sa Hipolito Ortiz Ancestral House, ito si Maria Ortiz naman, i-overlay natin. Isa siyang legacy singer na na-document ni Dr. Ornedo noong 1975. And the reason why I put that ruin there as a photo is because that's the same ruin at the back. That's the same house at the background of Maria Ortiz. And of course, the Vicente Ornedo Ancestral House in Sabtang, the most famous occupant is, of course, Dr. Florentino Ornedo. Everybody knows Dr. Florentino Ornedo. And then sa Itbayat naman, sa Eusebio Marabuana Ancestral House, maraming mga famous occupants doon, important people occupants doon, but si Mariano Tabuso, lawyer and a former mayor of the town, siya yung nakuhanan ko ng photo. Nakuha ko sa internet. So, yon. So, nagkakaroon ng buhay, nabubuhay yung kwento. Kung imbes na bato, nagkakaroon siya ng buhay pag may tao. So, going back to the title of my presentation, na ang Ivatan House stories when Ivatan House stories when interpreted or developed properly, or pwede siyang maging cultural resources, and then educational resources, tsaka economic resources. Pwede siyang gamitin. Kung lahat ng Ivatan Houses merong ganito, narrative report, historic report, di na-capture mo na yung history nung tao na gumamit doon, na-capture mo pa yung mga building technology na ginamit diyan. And then, yung kwento, when you sell it to people, when our tour guides sell this to people, naging interesting siya. Actually, pwede pang mag-develop ng thematic Ivatan House tours. Katulad ng mga madalas na ginagawa sa abroad. Halimbawa, pag na-research na lahat ng Ivatan Houses, for example, magkaroon ng Ivatan House tours specifically for BCMA fighters. Parang gano'n. So yon, ang aking presentation ay for conserving Ivatan House stories na may human part or may human stories in it. So that ends my presentation, and I hope may natutunan po kayo, or at least na-enjoy niyo po yung aking presentation. Maraming salamat.
Ay nako, Architect Sai, madami po kaming natutunan sa araw na to, at maliban dyan ay nalaman ko po na ang mga structure na nandiyan sa Batanes ay hindi lang mga bato-bato na inukit para maging bubong ng mga nakatira, kundi nakita ko po siya bilang isang libro na punong-puno ng pahina ng mga kwento ng nakaraan, ng history, na tiyak naman po na magiging interes ng mga taong pupunta dyan. Tulad nga po ng sinabi ninyo, hindi lang po siya structure, hindi lang po siya bato, hindi lang po siya bahay na nakatriangle, kundi ito po ay pwedeng magamit ng buong bayan ng Batanes upang makahikayat ng mga turista upang malaman pa ang heritage at kultura ng inyong bayan. So ngayon po, bubuksan po natin ang ating floor sa ating pong mga panauhin, sa ating mga panelists and audiences na may mga katanungan na gustong malaman mula po sa ating panauhin. So ayan po. Sino pong gustong magtanong? Pwede nyo pong i-chat po sa ating chat box kung tayo po ay nahihiya na mag-raise ng hand. Ito po,
Hello,
Architect
Mark.
Sai. Apo, Ma'am Dada.
I have a question dun sa chat box ni sa directly kay Miss Architect Syra Valiente. Maybe she can. But
Teka lang.
yeah.
Oh,
Anyway,
kay Marvin Tejada po. Ito po, Architect Sai, does this Ivatan Heritage Houses documentation were already submitted to UNESCO for inscription?
UNESCO inscription?
Opo, ma'am. Ito po ba ay naisubmit na raw po yung documentation sa UNESCO?
Ay, hindi po, hindi po. This is an ongoing project. Pero kung kailangan nila for example, UNESCO inscription or pre-coop, pwede naman na nag-share naman kami ng mga data na aming napokolekta. For now, ang goal namin is to establish the database.
Opo. Ito po, Architect Sai, medyo na ano lang yung aking kuro-kuro. Kasi ako po ay laking Kalamba and ilang minuto lang po sa aking lugar ay bahay po ni Jose Rizal. Pero growing up, para sa akin po, since dito po ako lumaki, hindi ko po nakikita ang cultural value ng bahay na yan ni Rizal kasi araw-araw ko siya nakikita nung ako'y lumalaki. Ngayon po, interested po ako makichismis sa inyong childhood. Paano po ba nung bata kayo na napapalibutan kayo itong mga cultural houses, paano po bang epekto nito sa inyo? Ito po ba ay nakita niyo na something na may importance na while growing up or something na lumawak na lang yung inyong pag-intindi nung kayo ay lumaki na?
Actually, katulad po ninyo, these are just common things, no? I didn't know the value of these Ivatan houses. But then in a college, I have a professor, si Professor Norma Alarcon. Meron siyang sinulat na ano nga ba title ng book niya? Philippine Architecture. Tapos merong Ivatan House doon na ginamit niya na kasama sa kanyang book. And then so parang nakaka-inspire na, oh wow, yung Ivatan House pala namin something pala yon. And then and another thing is meron yung parang nakakapagod marinig nung college na we cannot define Filipino architecture because a mix of everything from different influences. Pero ako, parang hindi ako naniniwala doon na that we cannot define architecture Filipino architecture kasi para pag ni-rewind mo siya. Katulad ng pag-rewind mo sa universe. Makukuha mo yung yung ugat, pinakadulo at doon mo ma-define yung ating Although magkaiba-iba nga lang kasi for example, Ivatan houses is iba yung origins ng Ivatan houses from the Ifugao and the Maranao. Iba-iba nga lang pero it doesn't mean na hindi mo siya ma-define kasi definable siya. Wala lang nga lang nagsusulat. So I really wanted to encourage na yung mga ating mga mappers or cultural workers na tignan talaga ang ating local cultural resources. Huwag lang yung pang-national na significant sa mga inaatupag.
Tama po. Architect Sai, matanong ko lang po, since ito po ay pumapasok na po tayo ngayon sa actually 2026 na po. So, paano po naman tinetake ng mga kabataan ngayon yung gantong klase ng disenyo ng mga bahay versus dun sa conveniences po na ibinibigay naman po ng mga modern designs? So are they still leaning to having the same building structures and design or mas prepare na po nila yung mga bagong structure and design ng mga modernong bahay?
Paano ko ba to sasagutin? Kasi to, madalas tong tanong But we have to accept that the Ivatan houses of this design belongs to the past. And so, yung gusto kong hindi ko alam sa iba, pero based on my because I'm also a practicing architect, based on my experience, ang ginagawa namin is halimbawa yung intangible lessons that we get from the Ivatan houses, yun ang aming ina-apply sa modern houses. For example, yung orientation ng houses. Grabe, ang hirap na nakalingon sa hilaga talaga. So yon, ina-adapt namin ngayon ito sa walang mabubuhay na plants pag inaharap mo siya sa hilaga. So at saka parating maingay ang hangin. So ang ginagawa namin is kino-convince na aming mga clients na alam mo ganito, we can design your house na i-orient sa ganito para mas safe kayo during typhoon, or yung mga tipong gano'n ang aming pinopromote. Kasi ang historic preservation is an entirely different thing from contemporary practice of architecture. Hindi natin pwedeng ipilit. Kasi unang-una, kung ipipilit natin yan, paano lang yung kanilang, for example, yung kanilang privacy. Kasi although pwede namang hiwa-hiwalayan, but then yung paano yung costing, mahirap sa costing. So, ang iba doon, ang kadalasan lang ina-adapt is yung character naman, yung bato-bato. But that is halimbawa modern structure pero lalagyan ng bato-bato, gano'n, na parang pero siyempre limited sa physical character yun. Ang mas magandang matutunan is yung engineering lesson, yung traditional engineering lesson, katulad ng proper orientation of the Ivatan houses, tapos i-adapt mo siya sa modern structure. Yan ang aming pinopromote po.
So
Pero hindi ko po
tama-tama po
alam kasi
tinatawag.
hindi pa ako nag-interview ng mga kapatid kung ano yung kanilang take on this.
Opo. So mapunta po tayo naman, Architect Sai, sa question po ni Sir ni Dr. Borromeo Motin. Sir Borm, ano po ang ating question?
Ayan, magandang hapon. Ma'am, napakaganda ng inyong presentation and marami akong natutunan. Pero nakita ko po, alam natin na yung mga structure na yon na yung tinalakay ay parang nagre-represent siya ng indigenous knowledge and technology, yung indigenous engineering. So, banggit mo din na ang gusto kong maunawaan ngayon ay itong, alam natin na mahalaga yun, no? Yung indigenous engineering ngayon na kung bakit safe yung mga tao noon. At ngayon na may mga modern technologies na tayo, mayroon bang nakikita ba yung value ng engineering noon sa application ngayon sa modern engineering? Yung although at saka yung paano tinitingnan ngayon ng mga younger generation na mga ibatan, para ba paano siya baka mananatili na lang yung ganon bilang isang simbolo at mukha, pero yung at naka-preserve, pero yung gamit noon or yung pagpatuloy ng gamit ng susunod na henerasyon ay natili na lang sa fossilized na mga report at
Or documentation.
Oo. So challenging siya na mapanatili nating buhay at ginagamit, at yung sustainability, at lalo na ngayon sa punto ng climate change, mayroon ba siyang gamit ang mga ito?
May gamit na?
Sa ating ulitin ko po. Yung ano po ang mga challenges natin na nakikita na sa inyong ginawa, no? Alam natin na mahalaga yung mga indigenous knowledge, indigenous engineering, no? Sa panahon ngayon, modern na siya at sa ating mga susunod na henerasyon, um, may gamit pa ba ang ating indigenous na engineering ngayon?
Ay, oo naman po. Sobrang may, may
At
gamit po.
paano siya natin magagamit lalo na sa panahon ngayon na we are challenge sa atin ngayon ang climate change, ang ating pagbabago ng panahon. Ang alam ko ay ang indigenous knowledge ay isa sa mga magandang engineering design, magandang kaalaman na mabisa para sa paggamit natin sa ngayong hinaharap nating suliranin, lalo na sa climate change.
Yan. So, yung katulad ng sinabi ko po kanina, based on my experience as a practicing architect, yung indigenous knowledge nila to adapt in the environment that here in Batanes, liba yung pag-orient ng kung saan mo siya i-orient yung house, malaking tulong po yun sa aming paggawa ng design. Although yung yung gamit is siyempre modern materials na kasi hindi siya mahal yung yung dating gamit katulad ng lime, although pwede naman na siyang i-enhance for ganun pa rin mahal siya because I have a current project right now using lime and yun ang aming napapansin medyo mahal siya pero may gamit as to the question kung may gamit yung IKSP ng mga Ivatans on their building houses, sobrang napakalaki po ng gamit ng ang challenge though is for example yung thatch, number one vernacular siya and then number two sustainable siya. Pero ang challenge diyan sa paggamit natin ng thatch cogon is of course the dwindling skilled workers. Number two is yung prone just for to catch fire because cogon as we know has a natural oil content yun. So maningas talaga kanyang So medyo delikado yung yun ang mga challenges niya. Pero as far as typhoon, kaya pa rin ng cogon ng typhoon. Yung lang niya talaga is yung pagiging fire prone niya. Yung lime naman hindi na although vernacular siya, hindi na siya sustainable sa Batanes. Dahil sa mga existing policies.
Saka medyo mahirap na po ata ngayong magmina ng lime kasi ayan po ay minimina. So, maidikit ko lang po dun sa question po ni Dr. Borromeo yung tanong ko po ngayon, kung nai-transfer din po ba ngayon yung indigenous knowledge ng pagpitak ng mga bato? Kasi nakita ko po ma'am, bato-bato yan, malalaking bato.
Opo.
So yung po bang indigenous knowledge natin na ng inyong mga lokal na pagtibak ng mga bato at paghulma nila na maliliit na piraso, ayun po ba ay pinapractice pa rin? O simento na po ang ginagamit?
Yung paghulma, hindi ko alam kung may gumagawa pa noon. Pero yung pag-construct, yun ang tinuturo ko right now sa ating mga labors dun sa ating reconstructed. Kasi merong special way of doing laying the stone na halimbawa so kailangan i-explain sa kanila. Pero siguro yung yung tinatanong mo is yung halimbawa yung lintel sa bintana, tama?
Ma'am, yung po mismong mga bato, ay ito po ba ay meron po ba kayo yan nung unang panahon, meron po ba yung source ng bundok? Natitibagin nila ng chisel? Paano po ba minimina yung mga bato niyan?
Sa coastal area lang
Coastal area po.
ng coral stone kasi yung coral stone malambot yun yan ang hinuhulma
Malambot
nila.
po. Coral stone po siya, okay. Hindi po siya
Siyempre
granite.
bawal
yung
nang
ano niya.
kuhanin yan ngayon. So,
Kaya nga po eh. So naisip ko po kung napakadaming tao ang gagawa ng modern house, modern Ibatan house using the indigenous materials, baka po maubos ang Batanes.
ah, ano siya, actually nag-import kami ngayon dahil bawal talaga mag-quarry dito.
Okay po,
Ano.
importation na po ngayon. Okay,
Yung
salamat po.
reconstructed projects, mga naman, ah, kukonti lang naman ang gumagawa niyan, mga reconstructed projects. Kasi nga po mahal kung imimik mo pa
Opo.
yung...
Opo. So kaya pala sabi niyo kanina, since coral stones po yan, so prone po siya sa, tawag po dito sa weathering. Kaya kayo nasabi niyo na kapag may tubig, may acid,
Yes.
nalulusaw ang bato.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. Naiintindihan ko na po. So, papunta po tayo ngayon sa question po ni Ma'am Dada. So, why are Ibatan ancestral houses considered unique kumpara po sa other Filipino heritage houses? And ano daw po yung elemento na must never be altered to retain the authenticity of these houses? So ano daw
Ah,
po yung uniqueness niya
ang
kumpara sa
uniqueness
ibang
niya,
bahay?
ang uniqueness niya, to the ground ang Ivatan houses. Yung mostly indigenous Filipino houses are above the ground. So itong Ivatan houses nakaano talaga sa ground kasi anticipation nila sa weather condition kaya mababa yung din ano nila sa 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 ground halos parang semi na nakabaon. Parang may ano to for example sa Lanyu in Taiwan, nakabaon na talaga sila. Semi-subterranean sila. So parang siguro transition period transition characteristic kami dito sa Batanes. On the ground lang naman yung Pero hindi siya nakaangat. Nakaangat yung hindi kami nakaangat no. Kahit na yung mga timber houses hindi yan nakaangat. So
Kaya po
unlike
pala nakita ko sa mga picture, architect sign na wala mga bahay na second or third floor. Lahat po kadalasan ay first floor lang.
tapos may maliit na basement or crawl
Opo.
space.
Tapos ang liliit po ng mga bintana. Okay, ito naman po, papunta po tayo sa question po ni Mr. Leo Hernandez. So more or less po, how much po yung current prices ng average house ng Ibatan? So para po ata ni Sir Leo na magpagawa ng Ibatan House. So magkano
Ah,
raw po?
Yung restoration project, halimbawa existing tapos magpapalit ka lang ng plaster tapos ayusin mo lang ano mo lang retrofit mo lang hindi yung major retrofitting hindi yung maglalagay ka ng kasi hindi pa namin nagawa yun maglalagay ka ng reinforcing bars or mga earthquake bolts mga ganon hindi ganon yung retrofitting like na ayusin mo lang yung mga roof frames ganon. May yung yung natapos namin is mga about 5 million.
Hmm.
And then yung reconstruction naman is nagko-cost 8 to 10 million. So that's the para yung price talaga siguro maraming may gusto na gumawa ng ganyan na itsura or pero siyempre the price tag.
So ma'am, ang bago pong bahay ay aabutin ng 8 million?
Yung same size lang sa Ibatan House na let's say 4x8, ano lang yon mga nakukuha mo yan to 3 million ganon.
Mahal
So
din po
medyo
pala.
pag nag-second floor na mga 4 million, mga 4 to 4.5 ganon na 4x8 kasi ayan ang common size ng 4x8 na Ibatan House. So, yun
Ma'am,
ang
ito po ay
difference talaga.
mahal dahil po sa scarcity po ng mga tawag po materials na kailangan pa pong ibiyahe from mainland papuntang Batanes. Ayun po ba ang main reason kung bakit mahal ang...
Yung for example, yung reconstruction namin, yung lime namin is galing pa ng Cebu.
Mm.
So, and then the skilled workers who does this is most of our skilled workers ayaw naman nilang gawin. So, kukunti lang yung ating nakukuha. And then makapal yung wall na yun. So, compare mo sa 600 600 mm yun eh. Yung modern is ano lang, mga about 20 mm, 150 mm, ganun. So,
Pero ma'am, yung traditional na paraan ng pagkuha ng lime, saan po nakukuha yan ng inyong mga ninuno? Sa Batanes
dun
din
sa
po
ano,
ba?
dun sa beach, sa kinakwari din siya, tapos biniburn siya. Pero ngayon, hindi na ako pwede.
Hindi
Hindi
na
na
po
ako,
pwede.
oo. Yeah, yeah. Although nag-try pa kami nung 2017, no, last part of nung kasi may project kang Red Cross dito noon eh. Nagpagawa kami sa Itbayat ng ganon. And
Opo.
then siyempre nagiging strict na talaga yung DNR. So hindi na talaga pwede na gawin yung. Tsaka aside from that, kung gagawin mo siya in a traditional way, hindi even yung pagsunog ng bato. And so mahina siya. Unlike yung nabibili mo commercially, syempre even yung temperature noon. So walang left burn out na ano,
Opo.
mas matibay yung kanyang
Baga
ano.
ma'am, ano na standardize na po siya ng industry. So,
Mm.
ito po, pasabi po mula kay Marvin Tejada. So the construction methodology of Ibatan houses itself can be acknowledged as Industrial Heritage Category 2. So UNESCO can acknowledge this as an intangible heritage. At mula po naman kay Sir Leo Hernandez, ma'am, yun daw po bang palikuran o CR? Nasa loob po ba o nasa labas?
Usually, ano yun eh, hiwalay sila. Ang Ivatan House kasi is a complex, parang compound, yung main house is one house, the kitchen is another house, and then yung palikuran is another house. Hindi siya authentic kung kung ilalagay mo siya sa loob. So, yung na-restore namin is yun, nasa labas yung ano. Pero siyempre nasa architect na yung paano mo gagawin na maging accessible sa occupants.
Opo. So meron pa po ba tayong mga katanungan sa ating mga audience? Eto po ma'am, panghuling katanungan ko po bago po alas 5. Gaano po ka-susceptible ang inyong, grupo, o ang lokal na populasyon po ng Batanes kung sakali pong magtayo po ng malalaking istruktura tulad po ng, pagpalagay po natin shopping mall? Kasi hindi naman po malabo yan kasi napakaganda po ng inyong lugar. Tulad na po ng nangyari sa Baguio na kung
Mhm.
saan nagtayo po ng SM na madaming mall. Para sabi po nila is sa modernization at sa paglaki po ng ekonomiya. So, gaano po ka-susceptible ang Batanes sa mga gano'ng changes?
Parang hindi ako ang tamang tao na sasagot niyan. Kasi policy making, ano na yan. So, hindi ko po masagot siya kung gaano siya kasi wala rin akong data to support any answer. Pero kung gaano ka-susceptible yung ibang community, baka ganun din rin kami. Although, may mga ano naman dyan na mga anong bang tawag dito? May mga um, uh, policy naman, mga laws naman na nandun na to protect Batanes kasi Batanes is the whole province of Batanes is a protected area. So siguro marami-raming diskurso pa yan kung magtatayo sila ng mall dito. Although
Opo,
hindi naman malayo, tsaka hindi naman totally ano, halimbawa mall na hindi naman massive yung mass
opo.
niya, yung maliit-liit lang na mga ano, kumpol-kumpol na parang ano, hiwa-hiwalay, di siguro baka papasa yung gano'n
Opo
na
naman.
idea.
Ma'am, kaya ako po kasi natanong, ma'am, madami po kasi tayong mga lugar. Example na lang po is Boracay na punong-puno po ng heritage ng mga indigenous people na tuluyan na pong nabura gawa po ng mga modernong infrastructure. So,
Mhm.
isa pong bagay po na nakikita ko na hindi malayong mangyari po sa Batanes. Pero sa tingin ko po sa tulong po ninyo at ng inyong lokal o LGU, magagawa niyo po nating pagsamahin ang modernization at ang heritage and culture
Mhm.
ng maayos na disenyo.
Mhm.
Okay po. So meron pa po ba tayong mga katanungan bago po magtapos ang ating programa? So counting once, twice, okay. So ito po, ako po ang inyong host ngayon. Ako po si Mark Flores. Nais ko lang pong sabihin ang isang bagay. Hindi natin kailangan buwagin ang mga itinayo na nakaraan. Sana'y maunawaan po natin na walang masama sa pag-unlad. Maaring mag-coexist ang ating kultura at pagkakakilanlan habang unti-unti natin niyayakap ang kaginhawaan na ibinibigay ng makabagong panahon. So maraming salamat po sa pagsama po sa amin ngayong hapon at puli niyo kaming samahan sa susunod na Biyernes. So we enjoy the rest of the weekend. Bye now.
Thank you, Mark.
Bye. Thank you.